Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to anyone watching this. Thank you for joining us for our Veteran Speaker Series. My name is Mac Manning, and I'm with the Office of Military and Veteran Services here at George Washington University. We have started this speaker series with a hope to connecting the GW's military affiliate community with different members to cover a variety of different topics focused on military students and military issues. Essentially, the focus is to just get to know different students, different members of the faculty and staff. And today I have the distinct pleasure to join someone that actually I'm very familiar with. Ryan Welch is currently a PhD student here at George Washington University. He was formerly an engineering undergraduate student and as well formerly the president of the GW Veterans Student Organization for Student Veterans of America chapter. So I was the advisor for that organization. So Ryan, thank you very much for joining me for this. This should be pretty easy. You and I have had extensive conversations. But if you don't mind sort of giving us your overall background and history within the military and just sort of talking through what that was like, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for doing this, Mac. I think it's important that people know what's going on at GW and the veterans that are there and how they like it. So I served for 10 years in the U.S. Air Force from 2005 to 2015. And during that time, I was an aircraft mechanic. Hydraulics was my specialty. So anybody who knows aircraft, I worked on C-5s, C-17s, big cargo planes. In that time period, I served at Travis Air Force Base, California, deployed to Balad Air Base, Iraq, went to Incirlik, Turkey, and then Rota, Spain was the best of them all. And then I finished out at Charleston, South Carolina. And then after that, I ended up coming here to GW.
So what made you decide to join the military in the first place?
I think it's just something that I kind of always wanted to do. I always liked aircraft as well. So my family had served in the military since World War I, actually, since they came over in 1906. And then my great grandfather served in World War I. My grandfather served in World War II. My dad in Vietnam. My brother is also in the Air Force, and also I think generally I just didn't feel ready for college, that I was mature enough to handle that task, and I think it was the right decision for me to join the military.
I think a lot of people could agree with your sentiment there, because a lot of people definitely aren't ready for the next level of which is higher education, but the military is definitely a great place to get some structure and get a paycheck, and open up some doors. So in your opinion, what was probably, one of the biggest impacts of your service on you? I mean, obviously we talked about, for a lot of people, they're not ready for college. So do you think you were definitely more ready for college when you got out, and going beyond that was, did you feel like you were more prepared for the real world, I guess is what they call it, once you got out of service?
I'd say the biggest impact on my character that the military had, and something that stuck with me, is having the accountability.
Okay.
The accountability for your actions, and that being responsible for yourself. I think President Truman had on his desk, "The buck stops here," and I like to think that with the things I do, I'm going to do my best at it, and if I fail, I'll keep going and keep trying, and I think that's what makes somebody great, is not giving up. And
Sure.
So I think the military kind of taught me that aspect of life, and then that helped me, when I was ready to go to college, or when I decided to get out and go to college, I had the right attitude to tackle a difficult major.
So the other thing is, I mean, you were a mechanic. It's a clear distinction of being like, you're responsible for, an aircraft, like a multi-million-dollar vehicle, from the time that you were really young to when you got, 10 years later. That's a lot of responsibility, no matter what age you are. So that definitely instills a lot of accountability and a lot of responsibility. So definitely sets you up for success in the future. Obviously you came to GW shortly after getting out, but what was your transition like to George Washington University and into college in general?
Well, I think about this a lot, kind of looking back, because it's been 5 years since I got out, and I'm well adjusted now. But I think, and Mac knows some of my stories of adjustment that are pretty funny in classes. It wasn't easy, because there's like several harsh truths to kind of learn. when you get out. You're having a plan is essential to getting out. But one of the harsh truths that I learned was there's a thin line between having a place to stay and being homeless.
Yeah.
You are the person, you are responsible for yourself. You got to figure it out, and it's not written down. There's no organization to it. Things like that. What happens to you if you get injured, sick? It's not clear. When you've had that taken care of for 10 years, in a sense, you're institutionalized to that in the military, which is its own thing, its own separate thing. So that transition was a lot harder. And then also, I think like understanding other people and how their relationships are, outside the military, because it's completely different with friends and things like that outside the military. I still keep in touch, and I'm sure Mac, you do too. Keep in touch with people you served with, and it's just completely different. So that kind of stuff took some adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, you remove that safety net, it can be pretty daunting and certainly a huge adjustment. And, I mean, it goes back to the buck stops with you, but at the same time, now you're the only one providing the bucks, and that can be pretty, a pretty intense wake up call for a lot of people. And the other thing is, like, I always heard about people talking about how they stayed in for the boys or the friends that they made, and eventually you look around, there's less of your friends that are still in. But then once you get out, you're constantly missing that. And even though we make connections and stay in touch with a lot of people, and it's easy to connect with other veterans, it's not necessarily the same because you're no longer in uniform. And that is a dramatic change. It's similar for everybody. So thank you for sharing that. So going into GW, you came here. I mean, going from an Air Force mechanic to being an undergraduate as an engineering student isn't, I don't care, how good of a mechanic you are, the engineering schools, that's a pretty serious major. Why did you choose George Washington University as your school of choice?
So I kind of chose GW, I guess mostly for the location. I'll be honest, I didn't do my due diligence in selecting a school. I was like, you know what, I kind of want to be in this area. I want to be in DC. I think there's a lot of opportunities in DC with if you want a career in the federal government.
Sure.
And you have that federal time and service from being in the military. It's great for that. So it was mainly the location is what drew me to GW, and it just happened to work out that they had a brand new engineering building that was just finished, and they had really started pouring some money into the engineering program, which is still, being built up. So there's a lot of opportunities for that at GW.
Sure. Very cool. So I guess a little bit is, why'd you pick engineering? Was that because it was relatable to being a mechanic, or is that something you have aspirations to do professionally? You always felt that way?
I guess it was a little bit competition with my brother, because he's a chemical enguencer.
But you have one brother that's an engineer, right? And then one that's like an E7 in the military, correct?
Yeah. So one of my brothers, he's an E7 or E8 in the military now. Okay. He's a mechanic as well, and then the other one is a chemical engineer. And so I guess it was competition a little bit with them, is kind of drove me, but it was also, just kind of the military taught me, what I could. It showed me what I could achieve, if I put my mind to it. Because going out and being deployed and seeing a lot of things and doing a lot of things and overcoming a lot of challenges with the deployments and at work and figuring stuff out on the flight line, pulling long shifts, it kind of showed me that I could do anything that I wanted to. And I thought, you know what, I didn't have the opportunities, to kind of go to college right out of high school. It would have been a lot harder. I mean, I could have done it, but it would have been really difficult, and I would have been broke more so than I am now. But I think, I wasn't ready then. So I think the military, brought me that.
And obviously you tested well enough and you scored well enough and you got into a very competitive program. So that's certainly something to be proud of. But you've already graduated from the program and you're currently in, a PhD program, which is, again, for engineering, is very impressive. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the efforts and the research that you're doing now and just find out how that's going. But first, it's no secret that COVID has sort of changed our lives dramatically. I mean, we used to see each other at least once a week in the military community center located on F Street. And now we're we're lucky to get a phone call in here or there, see how you're doing. And right now, I've been thankful that you're joining me for this speaker series, and we had to do it kind of distantly. How's your life changed? With this COVID, how's your classes changed with COVID, and how are you adjusting to that? The new normal is what they say.
Well, I mean, I think as we were just talking before we started this interview, it's just the social life has really changed. And I think everybody's experiencing that. And to the point where having a conversation, sometimes when you get put in those spots, you're just excited to talk to somebody. So you start rambling a little bit, which I might do during this interview. So there's there's that aspect, but then also with classes, with it being all online, I think it's in a way for me is kind of similar to how classes were before, in that it depends a lot on the professor's preparedness. There's some that they try really hard, they're really good at it, they make themselves available for office hours and to help you out, and they interact a lot with the students, and there's others that don't. So for me, the classes has kind of been the same. I'm having a really good class right now. I feel I'm learning a lot, and another one that's just mediocre, but I'm still learning.
There's a lot of great professors out there, but I don't know if necessarily engineers are known to be social butterflies. So I would imagine there might be a professor that's not amazing at being amazingly social. So, but it is what it is. I think we did talk a little bit about some of your efforts with your current research and in your PhD program. If you want to talk a little bit about what it is you're trying to do and what efforts you're making towards that.
So you want me to talk about like my research topics?
Just kind of over. Yeah,
sure. Well, I guess I'll start with kind of how I got into it, into the research. So one of my goals when I came to GW was to kind of be able to do that research and kind of discover something new and really learn, because I thought if I'm going to get out of the military, I'm going to try to do the hardest darn thing possible and really stick to it because I can. I have the opportunity and I want to do it. I don't want to hold myself back. And so when I was an undergraduate, I started performing research with Dr. Sonia LeBlanc in the engineering school, and it was on energy materials and semiconductors, and specifically it was additive manufacturing. So 3D printing, I guess is layman's term, 3D printing of semiconductors. And so we're specifically looking at these thermoelectric materials that are used for energy harvesting of from heat sources. So they're used on the Mars rover, Voyager, and Cassini space probes. They have a nuclear power source that gives off heat, and then the cold vacuum of space is the cold side, and the nuclear power source is your hot side. And that temperature difference provides the electricity in these semiconductor materials. So it's essentially like a solar panel, but heat. So I can go on and on about it. And it's really exciting. And so I'm really excited about doing that, because it's kind of like the cutting edge of the tip of the spear, so to say, of what's going on. It's sometimes not as exciting as being on the tip of the spear in the military, but it's the tip of the spear for the advancement of science and knowledge.
Very cool. It sounds really impressive, and it sounds like you got a heck of a pathway ahead of you in terms of your research efforts. So I wish you the best of luck on that. And I guess the last question is, this PhD should take you a couple of years at this point. Maybe not, hopefully not too long. But what's next for Ryan Welch? You had a pretty impressive military career. You've been so far really successful at George Washington University, and I think you accomplished a lot, not only as a student and an undergrad. You've done really well as a graduate student, but you also were a really successful GW Vets president. So we appreciate your efforts on making the quality of life better for the students at GW. So I want to personally thank you for that. So what's your 5-year plan, if you want to talk through, or just what's next for Ryan Welch?
Yeah, sure. And being GW Vets president, that was something where I learned a lot working with you as well. So thanks for your kind words for that, because it wasn't easy.
It's not the cutting edge of science or technology, but it's certainly it has its own challenges and unique difficulties with it. But it's very rewarding nonetheless.
No, I had a great time. Some good events. No, so I guess for the next 5 years, well, after finishing the PhD, um, I'm sort of right now. I was awarded the DoD Smart Scholarship, so that's the GI Bill ran out, and
Yeah.
so I applied for fellowships and things like that to pay for grad school, and I was awarded a DoD Smart Scholarship, which will pay for grad school and give a stipend. And as part of the requirements of that, I'll have to go work for the Navy when I'm done,
Okay.
and so luckily the office where I'll be working is the one that I had an internship at, and it's part of the Naval Surface Warfare Center of Dahlgren,
Okay.
and it's the hypersonics research group uh, for the Navy. So I'll be going into that, immediately after the PhD. But I think beyond that, um, I haven't really thought of. So beyond that will be about the 8 to 10 year mark.
Sure.
So I haven't really given too much thought about that. But I think for my future self, starting my own business with something technology related. Um, if that crosses my paths,
Well, I
then
think
fine.
I've worked with you on a lot of different areas, and this is a little bit unique because we are so familiar with each other. But I think you'd be successful in whatever avenue that you wanted to pursue. But I think it's pretty phenomenal that you're able to go out and have get an undergraduate and then a PhD without having any out of pocket costs while you're attending college, and that's a big draw for being a service member, but also being successful in your studies. So I really,
Yeah,
again, congratulations to you on that, man. Well done.
and
So,
uh,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say there's a lot of opportunities out there to get funding for college. Some of them people don't even apply to. Some of these things are really competitive. Some of them they don't have people that even apply to them. So it just takes a lot of legwork to find them and apply.
Yeah, and I definitely think we've worked on trying to have some resources available within our office, but there's always more to be found within doing your research. And
Yeah,
your prime example is many people probably wouldn't know about the one you mentioned. What was it called? The DoD.
yeah. DoD Smart.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely a
sci-
great opportunity, especially if you're in STEM or some other field.
yeah, it stands for Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation. I have the little notebook right there.
That's why you
Um,
do your research on it, so you're
yeah,
good.
yeah. It's not called SMART because you're pretentious or anything. It's an actual acronym because it's the military. It's the DoD.
Of course. So, well, Ryan, I really appreciate you giving up, your time on a Tuesday night. I'm sure there's a lot of other things you could have been doing, but on behalf of Military Veteran Services and GW veterans, we appreciate you adding to the speaker series. And frankly, between you and me, I think I'm looking forward to interviewing a lot of former GW veterans presidents, seeing where they're at, and interviewing future GW veterans presidents. This is sort of the beginning of what I think could be a really great series. And it's sort of kind of bringing in different people, because what's so notable about the military affiliate community, particularly GWs, is that everyone comes from such a diverse backgrounds and everyone sort of has a different starting point. And it's so great that we have that connection of the service, but then we all kind of come to GW. That's our connection, but at the same time, we all branch off and are successful in our own way. So congratulations to you, and I look forward to seeing many more successes in the future. And on behalf of the Veteran Speaker Series, we want to thank everybody who tuned in and joined us to watch this video. And if there's anything you want to leave us with, Ryan, feel free at this time. But other than that, that's pretty much it. We appreciate your time, and I just want to thank you very much.